my yarny friends, I'm Sara Sach. Welcome back to another edition of This or That, and sometimes the other thing. And what that is I'll put out a question and give you the opportunity to comment, because I love to read your comments. And remember, when I ask these questions, they're just sort of FYI. What does everybody think? What's your opinion? And so there are no wrong answers. Everybody's answer is right, because everybody does things different when it comes to crochet and yarn and things like that. And that's what our questions have to do with. All right, so last week we did talking about yarn labels, and we're continuing talking about yarn labels this week. We talked about this right here, yarn weights, what these symbols mean in these boxes for knitters and crocheters. And then we also talked about all the different yarn weights. And we talked a lot about that. Well, this week I wanted to answer the question I get all the time. I'm telling you, once a week I at least get this question. And that is, I spilt something on my yarn. Can I wash it before I crochet with it? Or should I crochet with it and then wash it? And that's a really good question. I get that all the time, and almost always have to do with spilt coffee. I can understand that one. Well, that is a really good question. So I'm going to ask you, and then I'm going to do some explanations about this. What do you do? Do you wash it before you put the yarn in the wash machine before you do your project, or do you do it after you do your project, or do you wash it at all? A lot of times, if you haven't spilt anything on it, it's really not important to wash it afterwards, okay, or even before. Now, I have seen where people take a skein of acrylic yarn and they put it in one of those lingerie bags, wash it on delicate in the bag, and it comes out beautifully. Well, I was very intrigued with this idea, and so I just, for fun of it, I had some extra skeins of yarn. I took 2 skeins of yarn and I put them inside my lingerie bag. It's just like a nylon knitted type bag, and I've had it for years and years and years. I should have grabbed it and showed it to you. But anyway, I never use it. It's like in the back of my sock drawer. Anyway, I put the yarn in there. I washed it on gentle. I did 1 rinse cycle, and then I put it on the quick dry in my dryer with low heat, and when it came out, it was a total mess. I literally just threw it away, okay, because I wanted to do a test on it, because I saw so many people doing this, and I'm really curious if you've ever tried that and if it worked for you, because it did not work for me, okay? So what I usually do when it comes to washing, it depends on the fiber, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. But I usually do what I call spot washing. If I spill a little bit of coffee on the edge, I will take a little bit of water with a tiny bit of Dawn dish soap bubbled up, and I will spot wash that. If it doesn't come out after I finish my project, I'll spot wash it again. Okay? But let's talk about washing and what the labels on the yarn tell us. So I made the labels that are usually on the yarn big so that we can see it and talk about it. And I just grabbed 2 types of yarn. This is the Premier Basic Chanel, super bulky, 100% polyester. This one is Just Yarn Value, 100% acrylic. And both of them have right here these labels. And what those are what you see, what's called a garment label. And it tells you how to wash it, how to dry it, ironing. You can see there's an iron right there. And sometimes the labels are in different orders. Okay? And you can see this one is different than this one. All right, so let's look at this. This is your basic set of labels that you'll find on most of your yarns. Now, a lot of yarns don't put them on there, but this is the basic. This is telling you that you can wash it and what temperature to wash it at. I'm going to bring this up just even a little bit closer. Let's set it up here. Oh, that's so much better. All right, 86 Fahrenheit or 30 Celsius, you can wash it. What does this one mean? This means you need to lay it flat to dry. In other words, don't put it in the dryer if you don't need to. Okay, and you can see this one has that on there. This one says machine wash, warm, tumble, dry. So it just tells you. Okay? This, of course, tells you whether or not you can iron it. You never want to iron acrylic because it's made of plastic. It's going to melt. See? The iron is crossed out on that one and on this one. All right? So what does this triangle mean? That has to do with bleaching. There's no need to bleach acrylic yarn. Okay? Now, on cotton yarn, you may see that without the X, and that means if you're using a white cotton yarn, then you can bleach it. Cotton yarns are different than acrylic or polyester. All right? Now, that last symbol is always very confusing, and that has to do with dry cleaning. Why it has a P on there or an A, I haven't quite figured that one out. But most of the time, you can dry clean acrylic and polyester and even cotton. When you're dealing with a wool, you can iron it, but you don't want to bleach it, but you can dry clean it, but you don't want to wash it because if you wash wool, it will felt. And so the fibers of the yarn are very important. I should have grabbed a wool one, but I don't think I have one that's 100% wool. Sometimes when you get a yarn that is part wool and part polyester or part acrylic, they'll tell you to go ahead and wash it on a gentle cycle because the polyester will keep that wool, if it's a blend, from shrinking too much. But one thing to remember is wool felts. All right, so your symbols tell you what you can do. This one is so small I can't read it. Okay, but this one just basically says machine wash on warm, tumble, dry. This one says machine wash warm, lay flat to dry. And so the label gives you instructions on how you can wash your yarn. Now this is really important because think about this. You just made this gorgeous blanket, say for a wedding gift or a baby gift or just a birthday gift for someone. It turned out gorgeous and you just love it. And you're walking across the room and you trip and you spill your coffee on it or soda. I will tell you, if an animal pees on it, just throw it away. You're not going to get that smell out. And that's sad. If my dog throws up on something, I try to wash it. But if it doesn't come clean, I just throw it away. So that's my thought on that. But you can do what works best for you. Okay, but I want to talk a little bit about different types of yarn. Okay, so I have a list here. You can see I have a lot of notes. I want to get it right for you. And a lot of this is what I do. Okay, so let's talk about different fibers. The first one let's talk about is wool. And this is what I have written down here for my notes. Do not put it in the wash machine unless you want to felt it. You can spot wash wool if you get something on it gently, but don't wash the whole item. Okay, one of the things that I tell people all the time, the best way, in my opinion, to spot wash any kind of yarn, like I said earlier, is just a dab of Dawn dish soap because it's also a grease cutter and it's gentle. And then some warm water, mix it up and spot wash it. And I usually use an older washcloth that I have that I don't use. I don't put any bleach or anything on it. Just a regular old washcloth and just scrub it and let it air dry. Okay. One thing about wool is you don't want to wring it out, twist it to get the water out or stretch it or agitate it in any way because any of that movement on the fiber is going to make that wool felt. And when I say wool, I'm talking about the fiber wool. Okay? Now, this is also true of a lot of other animal fibers, such as Angora or the ox or alpaca. In Alaska, they have this musk ox yarn that is absolutely gorgeous, very expensive, but it reacts the same way as wool if you're not careful. And the last thing about wool is never put it in the dryer. What I do with mine is I put a towel across the top of my dryer, lay it on there, almost like I'm blocking it. Just spread it out, whatever it is, and then I leave it there. That way, the next time I do a load of laundry, it can air dry in between, but then when I'm doing another load of laundry, the warmth of that will come up and also help dry it. All right, so that's wool. All right, let's talk cotton fiber. Cotton fiber is one of the most durable when it comes to washing. And one of the neat things about cotton, we make a lot of washcloths and soap bags, towels, tablecloths, table runners, lots of things, even headbands and hats and things out of cotton. And I love using cotton, and it's really, really, really durable. And most of the time, when you made something in cotton, and I usually toss it in with my towels. And a lot of times you want to worry about that color running. And what I do is I just wash it on gentle. I put a tablespoon of white distilled vinegar in the rinse cycle. Okay. And then I just wash it normal. And I do this with my towels as well, because the white distilled vinegar gets the stink out. That's what I say. It just gets the stink out. But that cotton also has absorbency. Okay. And so it's going to pull some of that stink in when you're washing with it. Like if you're doing the dishes and you set it up to dry and it doesn't dry all the way and it gets, gets a little bit stinky. So that white vinegar will take care of that, okay? And it just takes a tablespoon. I do it with all of my towels. And it also helps it soften up, okay? And it keeps those colors from running. Like if you're using like a navy blue or a bright pink, it'll keep those colors from running. It sets them, okay? And then I just throw that in the dryer normally with my towels. I just toss them in there. One of the neat things about cotton is when you're working with it, it can be a little scratchy sometimes, and that's usually the sizing that's on it, because I use that, it's kind of I don't know if it's like a wax or what it's made out of exactly, but it helps it move on the machines when they're putting it into skeins and cakes and things. And so that cotton is made with the sizing, and it helps it move on the machines. So once you put it through the wash, it puffs up a little bit and gets a lot softer. So when you're making a washcloth, say maybe you're putting together some washcloths for a friend, maybe some placemats or coasters or something, go ahead and put them through a gentle cycle with that vinegar, and then they're all ready to go, and you can give them to your friend. So that's where washing really works great for cotton fibers. All right, let's talk acrylic or polyester type fibers. These fibers are made basically from crude oil, and they're spun and wound into plastic just the same way plastic is made. And then they spin it in and make it into yarn, and we make beautiful things with it. Okay? Acrylic yarn is made of synthetic fiber. It does not stain, shrink, or felt. The thing about the stain thing, it's probably true that if you spill coffee on it, it's not going to stain, but it will absorb into those fibers somewhat. So keep that in mind. Don't think, oh, it's not going to stain, I can just leave it. When it comes to coffee or some darker things like that, I probably would watch that. Okay? You can put it in the dryer. A lot of them say that. Even this one says tumble dry. The acrylics over here. My thing is this. Acrylic and polyester yarns are made from basically plastic. They're going to melt. And sometimes if you don't watch it and you leave it in the dryer too long, it can get a little crunchy. It can kind of pull those threads and get a little crunchy. And so my thing is with acrylic, what I do is I wash it on gentle. I don't put the vinegar in there, but I wash it on gentle. And then when it's done, If it's a smaller item, I do the same thing. I put a towel over my dryer and I set it on the dryer to dry. If it's a blanket or a big scarf or a shawl or something like that, I might put it out on my back table, on my back patio. If it's not too windy. It's been very windy lately. But anyway, I let it sun dry. I used to do a lot of hang dry, but we're not allowed to have a clothesline in our backyards here. So, and I don't have the banister from my decks that I had when we lived in Colorado. So I just wash my patio table and drape it over that. Or if it's a smaller shawl or something, I might drape it over one of my patio chairs so it can sun dry. Like if I hung it out to dry. You know, I just don't really like putting it in the dryer because my thought is this. Yes, it says you can on most yarns, but I worked really hard to make that for me or for my friends or for my family, and I don't want it to get ruined. I want it to last as long as possible, and so I'm going to try to take care of it so that it will last as long as possible. Now, I know there are lots of other fibers out there like nylon and rayon and a lot of other fibers out there, and that's why it's important. I do recommend if you want to know exactly what all these mean and you know, having to do with garments, there is a website for the garment district for people who sell blouses and clothes like that. You can find that website and look that up, and that can tell you all that and then give you more information, because when we crochet or knit with yarn, we are making a garment. We are making material to wear or to use. Okay? And so those same symbols apply to our yarns as it does to garments of fabric. And so the question is this: do you wash your skeins of yarn? Has it worked for you? Or do you wait and wash it afterwards? And this is having to do with if you've stained it or accidentally spilt your coffee or Kool-Aid or something on it, you know, your soda, you know, or do you wash it or do you not? Another thing that's a really good thing to do is when you make something for someone, like say a baby blanket or a wedding blanket or something, make sure and include the label. That way they can get all this information and know how to take care of it so it can last longer for them as well. That's just an FYI. All right, so we've talked about whether we wash our yarn before or after we've made our project, or if we wash it at all. And I hope that if you have any comments, you'll feel free to make them. Things that have worked for you, things that haven't, your ideas and thoughts of things that you like to do. Because remember, I really love reading your comments, and I love that you take the time to comment on my videos. That's our discussion for today, washing our yarn or washing our garments after. And I thank you for being with me today. I hope you learned some things. And remember, again, I love to read your comments. And I'll see you next time for another edition of this or that. And of course, the other thing.